Hello, welcome back to Don Giovanni. So we've gone through the basic plot structure, and I tried to show in the kind of sweep of things that the opera is really dominated by its opening few scenes and the final finale, where Don Giovanni is punished for the murder he committed in the opening scenes. The middle parts, the Act 1 finale and the second half, really are upstaged. So they're a little smaller in comparison. They loom not so large. But there are some wonderful numbers, and it's particularly in the first act. And I want to focus on the Act 1 quartet, Non ti fidar. This I want to make some comparisons to that wonderful Act 3 sextet from The Marriage of Figaro. And we're going to look at it in a similar way. People have wondered if Mozart is not using a version of a sonata form in organizing Non ti fidar. And when you think of it in terms of its dramatic conflict and its musical form, you'll see a lot of differences between this number and the number from Marriage Figaro. And it says something also about the dramatic structure of Don Giovanni compared to the dramatic structure of the Marriage Figaro. What you get in the Marriage Figaro is a very, almost perfectly designed plot. And each little set of, each subplot has its own set, sort of generates its own discrete little numbers, duets, trios, sextets at the end. And they're self-contained. So they each pose a conflict. They each resolve that, at least for the moment, that conflict. Close off, complete closure, separate it off. Don Giovanni, you don't get that. You get the opening has a trajectory that really casts a shadow over everything else in the story. And what Mozart responds to this by not creating easily closed off numbers. We've already seen it in those first three scenes where he refuses to cadence after the death of the commendatore, and he just slips right into a recitative. And that the closure for that opening part of the opera does not come in any number until you get to that final duet between Donna Anna and Don Ottavio. And that really closes off the entire opening section from the overture on, incorporating the overture really into the musical dramatic argument of the opera. So we have this number here in the middle of the first act where Donna Anna and Don Ottavio do not yet know that Don Giovanni is the culprit, the woman who killed her father. And Donna Elvira doesn't know anything about the murder, but she knows what a cad Don Giovanni is. And so it's hard to even call this a conflict, but it definitely is a dramatic intrigue. So the music is here, let me turn off the music because you don't want to hear it listening to me. You want to go back and listen to it closely on your own. So the opening, Donna Elvira is just simply denouncing Don Giovanni. Donna Anna, Don Ottavio only know him to be a nobleman. They think nothing less of him, and so they're puzzled. So their puzzlement really is the dramatic conflict. So if we move to a second key, it started in the key of B flat major, now it's moving to the key of F major, a little tinged with F minor. The conflict really is not so clear-cut. They're simply uncertain. And they don't really sing melodic lines or themes or anything that's distinguishable melodic material, but more like recitative-like questions. So the so-called development is unstable, and really each character uses the opportunity to reflect and actually point to the questions at hand. Um, Donna Elvira seems sincere. Is there something to what she's saying? Regardless of what Don Giovanni is saying. Don Giovanni, of course, is recognizing that trouble is a brew, and he needs to get rid of Donna Elvira. So the recapitulation, which is dramatically and musically supposed to tie up all the loose ends and to resolve everything, does nothing of the sort. It degenerates into Donna Elvira and Don Giovanni just bickering at each other in this kind of buffa patter. And Donna Elvira is, in this case, she's what they call a mixed character. She's a noble, and she sings with in a noble style, but she also sings in these kind of opera buffa styles, this comic patter. And the distinction between the two, this kind of opera seria lines, she's already sung a little aria called A Fuggi Traditor, which could have been easily written by Handel. And a lot of her lines in the opening of this quartet are very Baroque. But when you have a character singing these kind of elevated opera seria lines and then turn around doing buffa patter that you would associate with the lowest comic person on stage, then you begin to question the sanity of the character. And this is a very interesting technique. Mozart's able to actually undermine the character's credibility, or at least call it into question. And if anything else, nothing else, it makes her a bit funny. So this number doesn't really end. And again, similar to that commendatory's death scene, the final cadence just peters off, leading directly into a recitative that follows. Now, in that recitative, one of the most amazing numbers or pieces in this opera, and it's not even really truly a number. It starts off as a secco recitative, and Don Giovanni, of course, putting on a show of concern, and Donna Elvira recognizes him. She knows it's the man. And this is an incredible turning point. So Mozart launches into probably his most astounding accompanied recitative. This is also very forward-looking. Harmonically, I've taken note of the keys that he moves through. They're remarkably distant. Really almost unprecedented for the day to write in keys that are so unrelated to one another. It's disorienting, as she describes to Don Ottavio that night that Don Giovanni tried to rape her. And of course, the question of whether he succeeded or not is paramount in Don Ottavio's mind. Donna Anna assures him that he did not succeed. So this music is remarkable. I think it anticipates things to come, developments later in the 19th century, where musical numbers eventually become the distinctions between one number and another, and between kind of accompanied recitative and aria are broken down. So enjoy that.